What's up, everybody? Spirit of 420 here, because everything I do is so 420. Most people don't realize just how normal strange is, or how strange normal is. It actually works both ways, and I've said it many times, which is actually kind of a universal rule in many aspects of life. It works both ways. I know I go both ways. Anyway, a lot to share. What a crazy few days. I was supposed to be on live Monday. Actually just did it wrong. Oops, just did it wrong in my head. No, I did not give myself bad head. I just did calculations wrong and forgot that Monday was an odd day. So now why I forgot is interesting, and we'll talk about that. But I was fired, so we'll come back to that. Anywho, tonight's episode is an investigation of The Woman King. Went to go see that. What was it? I think Monday night, wasn't it? Yeah, Monday night with my wife. So that was how I celebrated getting fired. Go see a new movie. Oh, you know what? Shit on a stick. Can't be on live without this one. I know that's weird. That's fucking dead air big time right there. The guy wasn't even in front of the camera for like 10 seconds. What the fuck is going on? And he never smiles. I'm just kidding this one on there. So I am going to try to smile more, try to look at you more. These are the things that have been told to me. Number one. Number two, went to go see The Woman King. And number three, got fired. That's tonight's discussion. So let's start with The Woman King. It was okay. So I've said this before, but I have the Regal Unlimited Pass thing where I pay $18 a month. My wife and I pay 18, so a whopping $36 a month plus tax, and I can see as many movies as I want, as often as I want. And even RPX, which is Regal's version of IMAX, but even RPX and 3D movies I can do, and they only cost us like $2 or $3 depending on whether it's RPX or 3D. So it's very, very cheap for those particular showings. But most of the time, just the regular movies, and that's what I go to 99% of the time, or 90, let's say, percent of the time. I do enjoy a movie in 3D if it was made to be that way. Like Avatar coming up, I will clearly see in 3D. It's meant to be, right? 3D Spider-Man, this most recent one, that was fucking badass. So The Woman King, Viola Davis. So first thing I'll say is you're never going to get a bad performance per se from Viola. There we go. Hold on. Over the top tends to happen with Oscar winners. And what I mean by that is once they have gotten that Oscar, then they're held to another level of giving this like Oscar quality performance every single time they act. And I've come to notice with watching, there's a few actresses that give Oscar winning performances every single time. There's some that essentially nailed it out of the park for, a particular movie, a particular, what's the better word? A particular performance. That's really the word I'm looking for, right? So for one particular performance, which is actually the bulk of Oscar winners, all right? For example, Denzel Washington, if you take an actor, right? Denzel Washington, 9 times out of 10, that dude gives a Oscar caliber performance because that's just the caliber of actor that he is. Same with, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan, but I can say that most of her performances are good. And I've liked a lot of her movies, but Meryl Streep. It's why these two in particular have multiple wins, because they're looked at almost every year because they simply are that caliber actor. Not every actor is that caliber. And again, most of them, more than half of the winners of best performance by male or female or supporting actor, supporting actress, the bulk of those, well more than 50%, will never win another caliber award like that. They gave a fucking hell of a performance in that particular film, and that's it. That got them that year. It was one of the best, right? Because that's the beauty of it. This isn't Lifetime. That's why they have a Lifetime of fucking Achievement Award. This is Oscars judging the year, and sometimes the best performances are people that don't always give the best performances. I don't know if he ever got. Did he even win finally? I don't know if he ever even won, but it seems like, Carrey was nominated a few times, and he really should have been nominated many times, quite frankly, Jim Carrey, that is, because on many occasions he gave Oscar caliber performances. Now, at the same time, he also gave nutcase fucking, do whatever you want to do, slapstick comedy bullshit. And he's actually a good example. If you talk about that, I'm going to come back to Woman King, don't worry. But there are some actors that and Carrey's this example. So you have the extreme where every performance is Oscar quality. Then you have the other end of that extreme where one performance out of their life was Oscar quality and they won an Oscar for it. Right. And then you have all the points in between. And that halfway point is literally somebody who, depending on the role they take, and there's a lot of those out there now. Denzel actually almost is in that category. And what I mean by that is, as of late, he has opened up his repertoire and done other movies that you're just not going to get an Oscar for. There's certain movies that there's certain roles, yeah, this one's not going to win an Oscar, right? Like none of the dudes that made Half Baked or Up in Smoke, they had no delusions. There was no Oscar opportunity for them. It was simply, fun and getting high, like I am currently going to do. Now, back to the Woman King. Oh, and I was going to say, Carrey's kind of that middleman. If Carrey does the right thing, if it is a dramatic role or has any drama whatsoever to it, and that doesn't mean it has to be a drama role, right? But it can be a thriller. It can be thriller is a whodunit. So I'm trying to think, or a dramedy. It could be a rom-com. These are the kind of movies that, like, maybe even a slight little bit of action, right? Some actions have made it in, because if you say what you want to, but Lord of the Rings is action. It's literally adventure, right? And adventure has tons of action. There's so many choreographed scenes in Lord of the Rings 3, which is one of the top winning movies of all time. Won 11 Oscars. Just looked that up, funny enough. So Carrey's one of those that if it is a dramatic role of any kind or has any has any drama to it, where he's truly, acting like somebody, particularly his biopics. I think he did more than one. I know he did Man in the Moon. I thought he did something else too, not too long ago. I'll have to look that up. But I could have sworn he just did another movie where he was true life, real life. Either way, he puts a good performance on, and we all saw that starting back with Truman, when he was finally actually given the opportunity to do something other than Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura, and I'd seen a ton, and I love Carrey, by the way, so y'all can fuck off. I think he's great. I love his art. I won't even get in politics, but the guy's he is absolutely not afraid to speak his mind, and speak his mind he does. For that, regardless of his position, I give him kudos. All right. So, Woman King, Viola. Well, I've been watching Viola for years. And I will tell you, she is a fantastic actress. Number one, fantastic. And I think she has the potential to actually win more than one Oscar. But what you do see many times, now Meryl, and Denzel, I think they're elites, and not that. And when I'm talking elite, first of all, let's bring it all back to what I believe: nobody's better than anybody else. We're talking about skills, where one person has it, the other person doesn't, but then they have something that person doesn't have. You are all gifted, and everybody's special. Each one of you are equal to the next person beside you, or across the street, working for you, you're working for them. It doesn't matter. We're all equal. The only thing that garners any weight in this world beyond our own skills is how much money you earn. And quite frankly, folks, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that that is not the way you measure one's success, because so many people have tons of money and they are not happy people. Okay, period. So, Viola, this was one of those performances, in my opinion, that 70% of the time, right? I mean, if you break it down to scenes, 7 out of 10 of her scenes, she was good. And then those other 3 out of 10 were like over the top. It was too much. She gave too hard. And look at the pressure that she's on. First of all, this is a movie about Africans in Africa. So I don't know if y'all know, but it's a little known fact. And I found out the hard way because I date everybody. And the first time I dated an African from Africa, I was rudely awakened to how much they dislike and nearly hate African Americans. So Black Americans, whatever the race prefers to be called now, they've always been my Black friends, and I've had many. So if I'm offending somebody, I do apologize, but I have friends of every color, every creed, and I never saw any difference in it. And my whole point is, you know, if you're a Black woman in this day and age, so there's the Black thing, there's the Me Too thing, there's the fact that this is about Africans who, again, I imagine Viola is not stupid to the fact of the distaste and the disdain that Africans have for African Americans. So you're an African American and you're playing an African, although it's dear to you because of your heritage, right? But then the story is about slavery in, I believe it was 1865, if I'm not mistaken, the year that this was taking place. And it was battles between tribes, and one of them was the king of, I can't remember the name. It really doesn't matter, but he was a very, king of a very large amount of land. And part of what his people and even the people he's fighting do is when they capture the other side, the other tribe that they're fighting, they would sell their captors to the white folks, to the as they called them, the not just Americans but also the Europeans, right? I mean, that just blew me away. I didn't even fucking know that. I had no concept that any Black man was sold by another Black man other than the trash. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not stupid. I studied my own heritage, Blackfoot Cherokee, and you always have crossovers. Okay, call them traders, whatever you want to call them. It really doesn't matter. But they made their choice that they want to go with the other side and not be the minority, right? So they end up working for the other side, and they end up doing a great job because they're on the other side. But I just had no idea that it was a common practice. So, one line in there is that my brother sold my mother, or sold my mother. My brother sold my mother. Or was it my brother sold my sister? It really doesn't matter. The brother sold one of them. And it wasn't, they didn't just sell their captors. They also sold their own for money and power. So here you have a country, and this blew me the fuck away. I mean, I got to tell you that in and of itself, that made the movie worthwhile, because the awareness that it is bringing to at least myself and my own family, that it was a trade no different than any other trade by 1865, and anybody who had an ability to make money in the trade was doing it regardless of their heritage, their skin color, where they came from, or even their own family. Blew me away. I don't know how much of the movie is truth, but that part of it is true. I ended up looking up that happened. Families sold families, no different than the way, here in the States. And how funny. Look at the irony. Because wasn't it 1865? Wasn't that our Civil War? If anybody at all is watching, please answer. But I thought it was it was either 1865 or 1885. And all of a sudden I'm trying to remember when the fuck So you know what? I have a computer and I can just do it. So the woman woman king year. All right, so here all it says is the fucking 1800s, but it gave an exact date. Okay, so apparently this says 1823. I could have sworn that it said something different at the beginning of it. But it's still very similar times, 1800s. If this is 1823, now that really blows me away. I'm going to research that and I'll watch the beginning of that. I might go see it again just to see it because I could have sworn that the first message that came up said 1865. And I was thinking to myself, how funny, because a lot of countries were dealing with civil division and conquering of who was going to be ultimately in power during the 1800s in general, just in general, like all over the globe, you know. Back to my point, it was no different. Family sold family, family sold captives or prisoners of war, right? Now, this is the part that I don't know how true, and I'll look it up because I am interested. And I just didn't have time because I was fired, so I've been really busy. But the point is, holy macaroni, the historical accuracy, I'm assuming, of this part is probably fairly close, but this one king of Hundara or Honduras, what was it? It did have it up here. Sorry, I'll at least say that. And I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Dahomey, Dahomey. So the kingdom of Dahomey was where the woman king ended up being. I don't want to give away the story, but according to this film, and I imagine that the bulk of it is pretty true, and I'm not going to get into some of the details that I clearly believe are fictional. They always build a story, within a story, and that's the part that you're like, okay, all of this seems realistic until you just keep adding on too many coincidences. Anyway, the king had developed a warrior tribe of virgin females. So they were literally called the Black Amazons, I think, or African Amazons. Although Amazon is over there in Africa, right? So I don't think it was Africa. I think it was like Black Amazons. And I don't know. I want to look and see, but I'm pretty sure Amazons were around. The concept of the Amazon woman was around before the 1800s. So I believe that they were being compared to that. Although I would like to find out and actually research and see if this is where the legend came from. But that just wouldn't make sense because as far as I know, Amazons have been around for a lot longer than the 1800s. The concept of them and calling women, having an Amazon woman tribe. Anyway, so this elite tribe, they would give themselves to the king. They would be picked, and they didn't have sex. They couldn't marry. They couldn't bear kids. They would fight to the death, and they were trained ruthlessly, right? And that part was badass. It was really, what really was cheesy is when you watch a movie like that, comparatively, I want to watch something done more like the way Mel was able to do Braveheart, right? Braveheart was, what's the word? Based on a lot of facts. It had extra stuff thrown in, but when there was close-ups and they were talking, it didn't have Days of Our Lives music on. Okay, that's just the simplest point. Like, I'm deducting two whole tenths, so that's 20 fucking points right there, because in the close-ups, when they would be talking to one another, they're, dear friends. And I thought they handled if it was in their native language, then they spoke with a real African accent, but nobody, there was most of it was spoken in language, and only a few times was anything spoken in anything other. But you knew that in reality they were speaking, all that shit, which I cannot do. But when they would get close up, I mean, I know they're not. I know they're actors and they're not actually Africans, and in that moment, but it feels very authentic and very real with emotion until that fucking music plays, man. That just, like, I literally felt like I was at home at 2:30 in the afternoon in the middle of one of my mom's horrible fucking soap operas, and I'm like 12 years old, and all I want to do is watch Star Wars. So, what I can say is that it was still, even taking that away, I give it a solid 70 right on it, because it loses a little bit more because Viola tried too hard. And there was also a couple of other scenes where not the main, believe it or not, and I don't think I'm taking away, you'll figure it out in 5 minutes. But Viola is extremely, I don't know that I would call her a supporting actress, but I don't know that I wouldn't either, because the main story runs around a younger, from the very beginning. You get that, like, it's almost equal. It was almost like watching Game of Thrones, right? Where we're watching the story of Jon Snow and then Daenerys, and how, we're watching both. That was very, very similar in that sense. So that's a good analogy, in the sense that we saw both of these two characters before they came together in the King's Woman Guard. So I give it a 70. It's definitely worth watching. I don't believe, and here's kind of the benefit of paying that $18, right? If I just see 2 movies now, it's $9 a movie. I fucking see a movie like every week, sometimes 2 in a week. So I'm just paying dollars for each viewing, is the way that I see it. Otherwise, I would not have spent the full price of a ticket. That was not, especially going at 8:30 at night, which was absolutely free for me. 50 cents is and by the way, just so that I get the salesman pitch part of it right, the 50 cents is transactional. If I don't pre-order the tickets, I just show them the thing and go in for free. No fucking money spent, okay? But I like to pick out my seats and know that I got the middle seats, and I don't have to argue with some fucking, douchebag who's like, oh, it's here first. So, I am who I am. Next on the agenda, I'll be going to see another movie this weekend. There's a couple of good movies coming out tomorrow. I want to go see, I don't know that it's any good. In fact, the ratings, I snuck a peek, and other people are saying it's bad, but I don't believe anything until I see it myself. When I go in, I try to go in as fairly open as I can. But this movie, Amsterdam, I mean, I have to see it, dude. It's fucking Amsterdam. And you got Christian Bale, and then 2 other turkeys, and then an ensemble cast. But the 3 people on the front are all well known. I just can't remember right now. And I'm not going to bother wasting my time looking it up for you, because you don't give a shit. No, I'm just teasing. But you'll get an investigation on that. So, before I get into being fired, I just want to say I do not want anybody to feel sorry for me. I do not want anybody to, if I end up needing help and I get so tight that money becomes an issue due to this, and I don't pull through, believe me, I'm at the point where I will ask and do some kind of a, go fuck me campaign. But until that time gets here, and I don't believe it's ever going to happen, by the way. And my belief, those days of me having to ask for charity, which I've done before with other situations, when my wife was hit by a car, I'm sure you can imagine, I didn't hesitate. But my point is, I'm beyond that time where I feel like that's going to happen. I have come to the realization 100%. I know that if I do not give up, then I will never, ever fail, truly fail. Failure only happens when you give up, number 1. Number 2, it has been proven to me over the last, because even though I had this job, the job pays a base salary, and then there's commission, and it's a commission job. And there's a few times where, when you have that kind of job and you have downtimes like I did in this, and what I mean by that is there would be, there's a few months out of the year, twice a year. So there's like 6-7 months out of the year where people really spend money on what I was doing. And then there's other times of the year they do not. So when you're taking care of a wife, a mother, and up until recently, when I say recently, at the beginning of the pandemic, which was probably about, half of my career, maybe not half, maybe a third of my career with this company. when the pandemic hit. But regardless, actually, it was almost, no, it was right about half, wasn't it? No, I'm sorry. It was, because that was 2020. Anyway, I digress, and I'm going to lose my train of thought. The boys were living with me, all the boys. In fact, I had 5 boys total living with me, my wife and my mother. And my wife and I were both working at the time. But there's times where, money has gotten tight over the last 4 years. And I'm not going to say I don't worry, because we all worry. There's no way that you can be a serious, I don't want to say serious, isn't it? A responsible parent. And when you look in your bank account and there's maybe only $100 or $200 in there, that you don't have some worry of, how am I going to pay just my rent? That's $2,000, right? How's that going to happen? That said, I know that it'll always work itself out, and I'm no longer at the point where I'm going to be living on the streets, because I just won't let that happen, and neither will my family and my friends and the network of people that I have. Plus, and I'm about to tell a story, but with every closing of a door, that means multiple other doors open, and it's up to me to decide which door I'm going to go through. So, backstory, and I think I talked about this. I don't know if y'all remember, but I'm pretty sure I talked about it on the show well before that break, before the season break. So this was back in season 1, and I talked about that I had started put my resume together and started looking for another job, right? And it ended up coming down to the fact that my owner and boss and I ended up having that conversation. I'm a transparent person. I don't like to leave. I don't like to give the wrong impression or even do what I could consider a lie. And to me, doing one thing and saying another is, you might as well be lying, right? Especially in many cases, you are literally lying. If you say you're not going to go somewhere or do something, and then you do that or go somewhere, then you lied, period. Especially if you knew it in the forefront that you were always going to, right? Then it's a bold-faced lie. Either way, the job. So I had started looking for a job because I was not happy, and I was starting this other project that is related to what I do, but it would have been my own rather than me working for anybody else, which is, always a higher percentage of the profits, period, right? And we came to terms on a couple of things, and I'll try to give you the understanding without getting specific so that it's not boring. But ever since the beginning of the year, and ever since inflation has really hit hard, this motherfucker has been knee-jerk reacting to everything he does and everything that happens. And if you know what knee-jerk reaction means, it means simply acting quicker and without as much analyzation and thought with your actions, right? So one of the things that he did was build this stupid system where and I want you to hear this, but after 3.5 years of not meeting daily, we're now meeting daily, right? That's what he wanted. Now, I record these podcasts for him 2 or 3 times a week on top of doing all the analyzation and keeping up with direct mail, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, I'm sales and marketing. I am not a podcaster. I am now, by the way, it's on my resume, because now I've done 3, not just this one, but 2 for work. And I'll be doing a new one soon. But back to the point. I was already going over and beyond for this guy. And that was part of why I was looking, because I was not feeling, in the simplest of terms, appreciated for what all I was doing. Now, to his credit, he will admit that one of his biggest downfalls and shortcomings is that he does not give people recognition, credit, kudos, pat on the back, stroke of the cock. He doesn't do it. Okay. It's not his thing. It always bothered me because he would even say, yeah, it's just not like me, and literally laugh, right? On the other hand, he never gets angry. He is cold-hearted as all get out. And I didn't know it was cold-heartedness until Monday, right? But to make a short story even ridiculously longer, he came up with this daily plan. I niched it down because of the podcast, which are recorded on Tuesday and Wednesday. I got it to where I didn't have to do Tuesday and Wednesdays. And what it boiled down to is essentially every day before the meeting, we had to put in bullet points of our goals, which is at least 2, but typically I would put in, 3 to 5 bullet points for the day of what I was going to do. Right. And that's all it was. It was just setting goals for the meeting, Keep that in mind. That's a good cue. So tomorrow's Thursday. 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, he went on vacation. Now, quick backstory to that. He told me that he was going on vacation because he has his relationship with his wife, his new wife, which they're still newlyweds, I believe, or it's just over 2 years now. But they're having a lot of issues because he's working too much and not giving enough time to his wife, right? Something that a lot of young owners end up dealing with, especially when they're 30s and they haven't even had a kid yet, because they just give everything to the job. So he tells me this before he goes on vacation. And originally, he told me we were still going to do the meetings. Now, just to put things into perspective, that meeting happens at 9 o'clock in the morning for me, but that's 11 o'clock in the morning. It's practically noon when you think about a work day. I mean, any of those who work on the East Coast know that by 11 o'clock, man, you pretty much feel like you're more than halfway through the day already, depending on who you are. And I'll even say, to me, I could not believe that he told me that about his marriage and then proceeded to tell me that he was still going to do these meetings, right? Well, of course, we didn't have the one Friday. And then Monday we asked, like, hey, are we going to have these meetings? He's like, no. And it was no for the rest of the week, right? So neither myself or my SDR, which is the guy below me, neither one of us did our goals since the 22nd, right? The 22nd was literally the last time that we had put goals in. Either one of us. That's another sunny point, number 4. So all of a sudden, he gets back Monday. Now, I hadn't had time to put my goals in yet that morning. And I was actually attending the meeting. Everything I do is virtual, so we use Microsoft Teams. And I was attending the meeting while I was downstairs making a cup of coffee, right? And I kid you not, he said something and I couldn't hear it. And he's like, I noticed that there's no notes since the 22nd. And I was like, no. And nobody else even said anything, by the way. And there's 2 other people in the meeting. One of which doesn't do notes because she only attends on Monday and Friday, right? It's fucking stupid meetings anyway. Honest to God, dude. So you don't fix what's not broken, people. That's an adage out there that anybody with common sense knows. But anywho, he proceeds to, you can tell he's pissed off, and he's like, okay, nobody says anything. And all I did was speak for everybody. And I was like, no, there's no notes. So he's like, okay, I'll get with all y'all individually here shortly. Right. And he hangs up the call. Now, right after that call, I went ahead and put my notes in, especially since he made mention of it, right? Go ahead and make his little happy, make himself happy. Give him a little kudos. Since I don't get any kudos. So I put the notes in. I make some calls and some stuff that I have to do for work, the normal shit, and even put in a call to somebody who I just pitched. And just had a initial call with them the week before that just went fan-fucking-tastic, right? So he hits me up. Hey, you got a second? Same as always. Answer the call, and he's like, we've decided to go ahead and terminate the relationship, and tells me something. I was like, for what? And he's like, because I put together that spreadsheet and you didn't do it at all. And I was like, are you firing Mason? Doesn't matter. I don't give a shit anymore. And he's like, I almost did. I'm like, I almost did. Just to be clear, this other guy who was a good buddy of mine, and I even told him exactly what I said, and he wasn't upset at me because he's like, I can't believe this happened. But the other guy is the pay-per-click guy. He is the guy that does all the ads and runs all the ads and manages all of our clients' pay-per-click and LSA budgets, right? For those of you who don't know what that means, just know it's marketing, okay? And in the shortest of terms, I knew he wouldn't fire him, but he's like, no, or I almost did. And that's it. Like, and to give you the backdrop of why I'm so, like, he terminated me right there on the spot, right there on the spot. Now, we had even had discussions how we would never do it like that, how long I'd been there, how much I'd done for the company. Because to give you a couple of stats, the company is worth a little over 3 million, and that's their yearly revenue, right? I brought in more than 2 million of that just the last 2 years and 9 months. And I say 2 years and 9 months, even though I was there for 3 years and 9 months, because the first year I was under his wing in the sense that we would run the meetings together. Now, next note is the amount that was closed in the first year was doubled by me the next year when I was by myself, and then doubled again. I did more than $1 million in 2021 in business, and then was, doing this year. So I've done well over 2 million. Next thing, I just got done saving 2 deals. One deal where the guy spends $5,000 a month, so that's $60,000 a year in revenue. And anybody knows a good salesman doesn't just save a deal, but they end up getting a commitment for them to spend more money. I know you're thinking that's impossible, but it's the way it goes if you know what you're doing. So he's about to sign another deal for another $4,400 a month on top of a one-off project for some video ship. Another guy, by the way, he only talks to me. He will not answer any calls. He will not answer other people's texts. He will not have meetings with them. I'm not bullshitting. Only me. Same situation with another guy. Everybody in the company has tried to get through to this guy. I text him. He texts me back. This guy now owes money because it's been tight. Long story. I'm not going to get into it, but he is a past due account, right? And I have this guy on a payment plan, and he already made the first payment. And he wants to stay with the company because he never wanted to be delinquent. He just went through some shit. One of which, his mom died. So I was very understanding of that period. I saved that business. The company, the people within the company looked at it as though me and this other guy, the one that fired me, ran the company. And like I said, I even told him, I was like, dude, I will never leave without giving you at a bare bones minimum. I would give you a full 3 months, due to the fact that it's a long cycle and it takes time to train somebody. It takes time to get somebody. So, I told him I would always be there for him. And I went over and beyond for this company. Anybody who knows me knows how much I loved working for this company, because they were, in my opinion, a company of honor and integrity and keeping their word and doing what they say and actually delivering a good product to its clients. And that's hard to find as a salesman. I've talked about that before. So to do this was like extreme break of his character. It's still, I'm having trouble processing the understanding of how he came to that, because he now all that stuff. And when I say recording, my recordings are scheduled all the way through mid-December to do 2 recordings every single week, 2 podcast recordings, sometimes 3. Also, I did all the data pool and did all the research before we put a strategy into place. I also obviously did all the contact, like all of it. He did no contact, right? That's all on him now. So I've told this story to a few people now, who some know me well. And what I mean by that is they're fairly close to the situation and know some of the inner details, and some not. And the consensus that I'm hearing from multiple people is, one, they think he might be actually going through a divorce. Some people think that the trip went really bad, because this is the first day back from his vacation that he's supposed to be saving his marriage, right? And one of the things that happened, by the way, as I told you, he planned on doing these meetings every day. Yet the moment vacation started, that had to be an argument, folks. I mean, wake up and smell the fucking cheese that is in between your toes. If you plan on doing something while you're on vacation with your wife and then that gets canceled for the entire vacation, obviously there was a disagreement and she won that fucking battle, right? But I know this guy. Like everything is work. Everything is work, and he cannot let go of it. I've never seen him let go of it. And I won't even get into all the fucked up shit that he's done wrong over the last year. And it has been a steady amount of fixing what isn't broken with knee-jerk reactions to the fact that people aren't spending, and that's about to go away. And what I mean by that is when you have almost 9% increase in inflation, it's a bounce back time. Period. Like, go and look at any fucking, do the research of any one of these fucking charts across time, and it's always the same thing. When we have that kind of increase, which this is also almost unprecedented. I'm not saying we haven't seen this kind of inflation before, but it is almost unprecedented when you look at the people alive. Okay. I'll ask later, but I don't know that my mother or father have ever seen 8.8, whatever the fuck it is, inflation that short of a time span. Because that's what makes this so ridiculous. We've seen probably close to those same numbers, but over twice or even sometimes 3 times as long of a time period where you're like, holy shit, man, the last 5 years shit got really expensive. Not the last 5 months. I know I'm being a little bit extreme, but I'm trying to make my point. We're still talking months in comparison to years for most of those type of increased inflation. In fact, I will look up. I want to see how long it took us to get 8% last time. Now, what I mean by that is the last 8%, we're constantly inflating. That is a constant. That's never going to change, right? And you have to look at it always over a certain amount of time because there'll be this and then there'll be some, this. 18 steps forward, 2 steps back for inflation kind of thing, right? But the steps, and what I mean by that is what really determines it is the amount of time it takes to get in between each step. And I would be interested to see, how much time it was in between the last two, or in between the last 8.8% inflation. But my guess is that amount of inflation probably is. I'm gonna guess like 8 years. Like 1% a year for over like 8 years. That's what it took. Maybe even 9 years to get that kind of an increase. And we did it in a fucking year. So if anybody wants to look up those facts, feel free to do so. And then drop me a little note in here and I'll ignore it and come back to it tomorrow. Not teasing. I won't ignore it. By the way, I'm going to make up the show. So today's Wednesday, right? Today is Wednesday. I will be on Friday and I will be on again Saturday. And as it stands next week, it looks like I'm going to be on the road and have some special episodes and doing some crazy filming. Don't know exactly where my part of my plan is to take this opportunity because you don't get the opportunities of, basically zero responsibilities other than taking care of your family very often, right? Work is almost always there. And I'm so happy I used up all my fucking vacation time. Cha-ching. So happy that I took a loan out right before I left. Cha-ching. I won't even get into it, but all that stuff has been erased. That was part of the little bit of severance I got. Either way, when I say a little bit, folks, it really is a little bit. It's not much. It's a slap in the face regardless. But I am going to try to hit a couple of cool destinations. One of which has got to be Vegas. I got to hit Vegas. So it's going to be sometime next week. My plan is on Monday. And I don't even know the fucking dates. What is Monday? What day of the month is Monday? All right. So Monday is the 10th. So looking at the schedule right now, next week I should plan on and will plan on broadcasting Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday day. I don't know what and where I'll be at those times, but I will always have an internet connection. I'll always go live at 7:20 p.m. Mountain Time on those 3 days. Now, I am hoping that at least one of those 3 days, or it might be the next week, it depends on how long this all takes, because Monday I'm going to leave, and in 20 hours straight, my buddy and I will drive my father back to the East Coast. And then from there, we're going to go along down to New Orleans and to a couple of hot spots. And Texas, got to hit Texas, right? It's fucking Texas. TX, mother. TX. Anyway, I got a thing for Texas. Sorry. I do love King of the Hill too. Make sure to go to Albuquerque, where I have to take a left, just like Bugs Bunny, or I think maybe he always took a right. For me, I'll be taking a left because I'm going to go to Vegas and Grand Canyon. So that's kind of my plan right now. And it may take more than a day because my father, God bless him, threw the surprise on me today. Well, I was thinking about a couple of stops on the way home. And one of those he wants to do is St. Louis because he wants to do the Ark and the Diggle, which, you know, I told him he can go alone. I love him, and I don't like how little balance he has, but I am not. I got a thing for heights, folks. I don't like elevators too. And that one's like a combination of all kinds of weird shit that could go fucking wrong, in my opinion. No offense, Dad. So the next couple of weeks will be an adventure. While that's all happening and while I'm on the road, one of the beautiful things about working remotely is I will be working on this new opportunity. I'm not going to sit and waste any time, and I'm actually very excited. And as more of that unfolds, then I'll share even more of the things that are happening. You know, one of the things that I'm telling you is I got one of the pieces of the project is specific to cannabis. So I think that any of those folks that are in the cannabis industry are going to be really interested. And when I say that, the people that actually have cannabis businesses are going to be very interested in some of the stuff I'm doing, because it's essentially going to help them generate more business. And who doesn't want that, right? I don't think I have anything else. Trying to think, but that doesn't work out for me. You know what? It is only fair, since y'all been with me this long, have at least one dab to blaze or not to blaze. Anybody know that reference? No? Anybody? Bride is Prince? No, I'm kidding. Princess Bride? Nobody? Anybody? To blaze. Oh, what was his name? Billy Crystal. That was Billy Crystal's line. He was the miracle worker, right? But mine is to blaze or not to blaze. There is no question. There is only to get high, to get by. And that one is a So 420 original, folks. So being that is what I believe, we're going to take this little chunky piece of what looks like a booger. Funny enough. We're going to dab it up, and then we're going to say goodnight and let you folks get on your way. Let me get on my way. I was on for 50 minutes. I think that's more than enough. I look like shit, but I needed everybody to know. If I had missed today, by the way, and I'll just say this real quick. If I had missed today, I think not only my family, but my friends and everybody who's already heard about it, the firing that is on Monday, would have honestly thought and been worried that it was somehow getting to me. And I wanted to come on. Everybody knows I wear my feelings on my shoulders. If I was having a bad day, if I was having a bad time, I think you folks at this point know me well enough to know that I'm pretty authentic, and you would have seen right through anything. Two of my partners in this new venture both said each of them said something slightly different, but one said, dude, it's actually exciting. I was like, right, it is. I have to give no more of my time or energy to that company. For those who know me, I did not give just 40 hours a week. I lived it. I would close deals, no bullshit, at 1:30 in the fucking morning with people while they're having a beer on the East Coast at 3:30. Okay. I lived, I closed deals on the weekend. That was a Friday night, by the way, which technically to me at 5:00 Friday, the weekend starts. So anything beyond that is weekend. But I have closed on Saturdays. I have presented on Saturdays. I've even closed on the Sabbath, Sunday, which is supposed to be the day that I don't work. I don't even go live on this. But because with sales and particularly marketing, which is ultimately it's both a tangible and not a non-tangible. And what I mean by that is it's service based. So the service part of it, and a lot of what you do is actually a non-tangible, intangible. Excuse me. Let's say it correctly. It's an intangible. You can't touch it, you can't feel it. But the whole idea is that if you pay me X amount of dollars and use my services, that ultimately you should see somewhere between at a minimum a 3x return, but maybe as high as 7, 8, maybe even 9 or 10 at times. By the way, anybody that's making more than a 10x return, it is possible and it happens. I'm not saying that. But if you follow the history of it, it's going to disappear. The 10x is ultimately going to disappear. It's not sustained. But you're selling marketing. When you're selling marketing of that kind, it's a tangible and an intangible. There's certain things you can do and show and prove that you did them, like placing an ad, but there's no guarantee that the ad's going to attract one single asshole to come to your business or pick up the phone or go to your website, right? So it is what it is. Hold on. So I no longer have that. It's exciting. That is absolutely exciting. And the other, what was it that my other buddy said? How did he say it? Oh, he was so my partner that I work with, and we're still great friends, by the way. Just a couple of responses from folks I work with that have reached out to me. He's going to regret it. I can't believe he did that. What the hell is he thinking? How's he going to do? And how's he going to replace you and do what you were doing? So, but what my buddy said to me is like, you're free. He even said it this way. He was doing his morning routine, right? And he looked at the clock and he knew that's what time that I started my morning routine. Because we're 2 hours difference. He's on the East Coast, so I start a couple hours after him, right? But he looked at the clock and he's like, holy shit, he doesn't have to do shit. That's got to be awesome. And he just, all he could talk about was the freedom. And I got to tell you, don't get me wrong, I still have to work. But I was doing everything that I'm doing now while holding on a full-time job that clearly I think I got across to you. The whole point of that tangent was that I put in all hours and I went to bat for this company like I loved them, like they were my own. I truly sold for them like they were my own. And that is rare in the world, period. That someone sells your product or service as if they have stake in the company, right? That'll be different. That's all I have to say. Things change and they were supposed to. And I had a door close on me. And I literally had not one, not two, but multiple doors, like 4 or 5 doors open in the same day. And by the end of the day, I'd written a couple of emails to the founder of the company, who was not the one that fired me, by the way. And I was, especially now, this is my ending of the closure, if you will. But that was it. I was done. I got out. I got off my chest what I wanted to say. To me, in the simplest of terms, and this is how I ended the email, was in my time, I never did one thing, and I will never and continue not to do anything to hurt the company. However, what he did literally is going to hurt this company no matter how you slice or dice it, because it wasn't done in a Passover way, so that no beats were skipped, if you will. Nobody is there. Nobody was taught by me on how to close and guided by me and mentored by me, even though I'm the one that's been closing every deal for almost the last 3 years with zero to no contact from him. And he's not a people person. Just say that. He's a real nerd. Nice guy, but real nerd. But now I found out he's ruthless. He's cold. To do that after the relationship, I have changed things in my life and exercise, my bike. I mean, there's multiple things I've done on his recommendation, and we've had conversations. But the one thing I always notice about him, and I'll end it with this. I used to say, I said it to my wife, this wasn't new, but he's never had children. So in my opinion, he has not come full circle to understanding life, right? Because he's never had to take care of another one that he brought into the world. Even if it was adoption, he's not taking care of it. And it was really funny because every time we had a conversation, even if it was clearly that I was vastly more knowledgeable than him on it. For instance, I am 50. Gaming consoles is my forte. I've been gaming since the first fucking console hit the market and have had every console since, right? And this kid who's like 15 years younger than me is telling me about it like everything he's saying is correct. And everything he would say was always that his opinion was the correct fact. And it reminded me a lot of me. No, not to be, and I'm not being funny at all, but hell, I was that way until yesterday. I still fight it. I still fight that, but I've learned that there's my opinion and then there's facts. And when I say my opinion, I try to lead it with I believe or I feel, so that, it's very clear that this is my opinion. Otherwise I'll say I'll literally say it's a fact, or this is how it is. That's not hard. So the world on a normal day is extremely strange, right? Got fired on a Monday, so it was a manic Monday, and here we are, and I already have all these new opportunities, and this will continue on. So I will be on Friday, like I said. I'll be on Saturday to make up for the Monday show, so I'll end up going 2 days in a row. And then the following week will be TTS, right? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And I'll be doing some episodes from the road. God knows. Hopefully I won't have to do one from Starbucks, but if I have to, I will be going live and reaching out and doing my own thing. And like I said, this season is exciting. It's even gotten more exciting now with all the new developments, and let's just see where it goes. I love each and every one of you. You're all very awesome, incredible people. Remember that you're unique. If you're bad at something, that means you're great at something else. And if somebody always brags about how great they are at something, just know that they're horrible at something, most likely, that you're awesome at. You just got to figure out what it is. I hope all that made sense and it didn't just sound like stone gibberish. But hey, you know what? Maybe it did. Who gives a shit? I love each of you. Have a wonderful day. I will be on Friday. Until then, stay stoned. To blaze or not to blaze, there is no question. There is only to get high, to get by.
You can't have my phone number unless we running up the digits. Let me meditate, I just need a couple minutes. Tryna low bomb me, my cojones to the big ass. Bitch, I get high. I ain't looking at the clock still.